Hello everybody. You guys, this is my first live on the Feral Self-Care channel. So first of all, if you come here, thank you for being here. Feel free to pop your hello down below. Tell me where you're coming here from. I would love to see you guys. Also, thank you so much for the support on this channel. We have finally gotten to 100 followers here, which I'm really excited about. But to be honest, we are the most excited about getting to 50 because then we could go live. So today we are going to be doing a video here talking about the messy truth about self-care. You guys, those of you who have been in my world for a while that follow my other channel, Healing for Hot Messes, know that this is like a hot button issue for me. I have so many strong feelings about self-care, and I have so many strong feelings about self-care in the modern era, especially because I feel like it is a topic that well, I mean, not to put it too kind of chaotically here, but it really chaps my arse that we are still having the self-care is not selfish conversation in the year 2025. Okay. So it's something that is very important. It's something that I believe can change the world. And I know that sounds like overly dramatic, but I will say that it's not, because the reality is the human species in general, our collective consciousness, whatever, however you want to look at it, we do all kind of influence each other by how we show up to the world, right? It's kind of like that saying about how one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. And it's not to say that, I think we're a bunch of bad apples or anything here, but I think that there is this collective wound when it comes to self-care that we feel like things need to be a lot harder than they actually are in practice. This is why I wrote this book. This book is Feral Self-Care, 100 Ways to Liberate and Celebrate Your Messy, Wild, Untamed Self, because I feel like in general, the self-care conversation has been so co-opted by capitalism and like bullshit. And it becomes this another way that we can kind of victimize ourselves or hold things off from ourselves and think that they're a lot harder than they need to be. So in this video, we are going to be covering some things I noticed when I started making this channel. So when I was looking at the self-care niche, especially particularly on YouTube in general, we're going to be talking a little bit about feral self-care, of course. And we're going to be talking about perceived barriers to self-care. We're going to talk about subconscious belief systems. So we're going to get a little like slightly psychology, mystical, slightly woo-woo in the like psycho-spiritual sense, which, as you guys know, feral self-care is all about that. And I personally am all about that, particularly on my other channel, Healing for Hot Messes. So if anybody is here watching this right now, feel free to say hello. But also, if you're watching this, tell me, what do you see as your biggest barriers to self-care? What do you see as the biggest struggles that you have when it comes to self-care in your life, in practice, in reality? Now, self-care is very similar to anything else in the sense that it's very easy to think about and it's very easy to put aside as another chore to ignore. But really, it's something that you have to actually practice to get the benefits from it. And that can be a little bit of a challenge, particularly when we do live in a world where we have a lot of competing responsibilities. We have a lot of shit on our plates, and we are not often supported to take care of ourselves in a way that will have us feeling more grounded, more empowered in life. I can see here why, like, people who get very conspiracy theory-ish, which, sometimes I even tend to get that way. I can see why people get that way, because the truth is, if people are individually feeling very tired, very exhausted, not empowered, they have this feeling of learned helplessness, all of that sort of stuff. If we're not taking care of ourselves on an individual level, this really changes the way we show up for the world. If we don't feel empowered, if we feel like we don't have a choice in what's happening to us, not only on a micro scale, but on a macro scale, on a bigger, larger collective scale, we are far easier to control. It's far easier to milk us for profit, which sounds like the craziest way of saying it, but that is kind of what the world is built on right now, is telling us all of our problems, all the ways we don't measure up, and then selling us a solution, right? And this isn't to say, anything bad about people selling anything or anything like that. It's just that we live in a context where self-care is really largely seen as unattainable, or there's a bunch of different reasons why people feel like they can't kind of have a handle of their own self-care. Oh, hi, April. Ooh, so glad to see you, April. Thank you for being here. Okay, so the first thing when we made this channel, one of the first things we noticed, because we started looking at other self-care channels. So we like searched up on YouTube self-care, and one of the biggest glaring things for me that was interesting was the fact that the self-care niche in general, at least here on YouTube, but I would argue it everywhere else, because this is kind of how I've built my career as being a different approach, is essentially that self-care is being kind of communicated across. And I would urge you to look into this as well. If you type in self-care on YouTube, see what comes up. It's very much like everything is very crisp white. There's a lot of like thumbnails of like, it looks like a white sheet that like has never been used before. There's a lot of like green smoothies. It's a lot about like fitness, nutrition. So if you guys are familiar with like the clean girl type meme, like, you know, if you go on TikTok or whatever, you search up clean girl, it's like this aesthetic, right? This workout aesthetic. There's smoothies. It's like, oh my God, I'm that girl. And I find that in general, self-care is for everybody. But that approach in particular can be really off-putting for people, and it can feel like something we can't relate to. One of the most detrimental things about self-care in the modern era, in the modern kind of capitalist context, is it can feel so attainable, or something that we use again to victimize ourselves on a subconscious level, when we're like, oh, I could never be like that. I couldn't do that. My life can't be like that. And then we're feeling bad about ourselves in a capacity that is supposed to be fulfilling for us. Make it make sense. So this is what informed when I wrote the book about feral self-care, because I personally think self-care is something that does not require full spa days. It's not something that requires like a whole aesthetic. It doesn't require like a 28-step morning routine. Like that just doesn't make sense to me. Self-care is something that is automatic and deeply, deeply primal. So a good example of this would be, you know, has anybody here, if you're watching this, experienced burnout? Have you experienced a situation where there's just so much that you need to do. Things are stacking up one on top of the other, and you're thinking in your brain, oh my God, like I really need to make sure that I'm on point because I can't fall behind. Maybe you have a job and you know you can't call in sick or something like that. We have all experienced, and please drop it in the comments if you've experienced this as well. We've all experienced those moments where it can feel as if we just don't have time for self-care. And then it will literally, like a lack of self-care will literally manifest in the most batshit crazy ways. So we're talking, you know, oh my Lord, like the energetics of it are a little more convoluted, because I'm sorry, it can manifest in wild ways. But even just on the most basic level, we can become sick, we can become exhausted, we can start making mistakes and all that shit that we can't put down, right? And this is because there is a very delicate interaction of our physicality, our mental health, our wellness, our energetics, that can create a situation where if we do not make the time to take care of ourselves, it will end up making itself known, and we will lose more time in the long run. That being said, we have this crazy little hamster wheel thing that goes on our brains, and ask me how I know, because I experience this still every fucking day, is that it can feel hard to get ahead of, because again, there's that pile of stuff. There's a saying, something about penny for prevention and pound for, I don't know. I'm going to butcher it, so I'm not going to bother saying it. But essentially what can happen is self-care can be seen as this like really fluffy, frivolous sort of aesthetic thing, when really it is just like a path of least resistance for human beings, which is definitely why I wrote the Feral Self-Care book. So if you are watching this video, please feel free to like it. Please subscribe. This channel is brand new, guys. If you like chaotic gremlin girlies, if you like simple self-care, if you like spiritual wellness, you're going to want to get in here on this channel, because that is what we do here. Now, I'm just going to pop into the chat for a moment. I think my barrier is either feeling undeserving or self-care in general seeming somehow frivolous, which I know is false, but still. Girl, okay, I'm so glad that you said that, because that is definitely what we are going to be getting into in this video. Maribel is saying, I'm making the time daily, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes just for me. Fuck yes, absolutely. Guys, this is perfect. This is beautiful. Okay, so when it comes to self care, it's not this thing that is selfish. It is not this thing that is kind of like really unattainable, that is like you have to all of a sudden paint your entire house the exact same shade of eggshell white in order to achieve. Okay, so our approach here and my approach on all my stuff, for whether it's healing for hot messes or feral self care or anything, is a bit different because I see self care, actual real boots on the ground, like going outside, getting messy, actually working with your human nature, your animal mammalian nature, as being a very rebellious, very practical, boots on the ground, back to basic approach in a modern context that is not designed to support us. The modern, nobody is going to come over to you and be like, well, it's your designated self-care time. No. So we have to grab that shit kicking and screaming, and we have to make it happen for ourselves. And again, not to be dramatic, but I'm full of the drama. This is how we change the world. If people sit around feeling disempowered, feeling like they can't control everything, feeling like, well, if I don't do this and I won't fit in, or maybe people will think I'm selfish, be selfish and take care of yourself, because that is how we can shift and change the frequency, the energy of the world. Some of us here have kids. I have kids. I have to be extra careful about my self-care and the things that I am subliminally or energetically communicating about self-care, because essentially we are not sat down as children and told like, don't ever take care of your self-care because it's selfish. You shouldn't. No, it is a pervasive thing that permeates our worldview. This is programming. And I know I sound like a crazy person when I talk about programming, but most of our spiritual work, our self-care work, our mental health work is a process of deprogramming by these bare minimum bitch ideas that seep into our consciousness and screw things up. Oh, hi. Oh, so happy to see you. Okay. So when I'm thinking about feral self-care, I'm thinking about really working with our mammalian animal nature as opposed to working against it. So a large part of this book, Feral Self-Care, operates on the presupposition that we are all programmed to be domesticated. Do you see other animals wearing pants? Unless a human put them on, they're not walking out there putting pants on their own self, right? We do that. We victimize ourselves by making ourselves feel like we have to conform, because evolutionarily speaking, our psychology is hardwired to be pack animals and to get the support of the group. So my degree is in psychology. I'm a huge psychology nerd. That's why I'm your psychospiritual bestie. And part of this is that our very psychology that has helped us to grow, adapt, and evolve on this planet is the same mechanisms of things that are now taken and used against us to sow division, to make us feel bad about taking care of ourselves, to milk us for profit, like literally, and our energy, right? So when you think of, for example, the internet, or this idea that we should all be, sucking on the titty of doom at all given moments so that we can just feel really disempowered and just like buy shit and be like, well, there's nothing I can do about it. No, we need to empower ourselves. Oh, I'm glad I don't sound crazy. Well, I mean, to some degree, I always sound a little bit crazy, but I'm glad, because deprogramming is what it is. And we need to deprogram our idea of self care, deprogramming what we think that looks like, and whether or not we are going to use those illusions to victimize ourselves further. So when it comes to feral self-care, what we are all about is nature, right? Rewilding. We are animals, we are mammals, and we, instead of trying to fight our true nature, we should be digging into it and leaning into it as a form of self-care, right? So, if you see a grass field, you want to kick your feet off, your shoes off, you want to go run around it, you want to put your toes in the water, you want to scream when you're upset, you want to dance, you want to sing, like do those things. Those are such a path of least resistance that exists within us at all given times, right? So lean into that. Spirituality. The human experience is predominantly a spiritual one. That's just fundamental to our nature. That is, there's been evidence of that throughout human history. This is very important stuff. We are meant to be spiritual creatures. I'm not talking about dogma here, okay? I'm not talking about rules. I'm not talking about I identify as this is this. I'm talking about being able to look at the world in a sense of wonder, in a sense of awe, and be able to see that there is so much stuff beyond what we can perceive, what we can understand, and being okay with not knowing. If that's making sense for you guys, feel free to say hi in the chat. So, creativity. Now, a lot of people, and we've talked about that on this channel before, a lot of people conflate the idea or like mix up the idea of creative, being creative with being an artist. This could not be further from the truth. All human beings, human consciousness in general, is creative. The last time you heard a weird fucking noise at night, what did your brain come up with? Inherently very creative stuff. When you're thinking about all the ways that you screwed up in life and how everyone's going to hate you and blah, 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 and like your brain goes on a runaway train to like wherever the heck, inherently creative. So we can take these mechanisms, these things that exist in our brain, the way that our brain works, we can take those and we can shift and move them and direct them in our favor to gain self-care and to gain frequency shifts with it rather than working against it. And by the way, just on the topic of like spiritual word salad, which I talk more about on my other channel, but when I say frequency, what I mean is an energetic signature. This is a very real thing. You know, when you walk into a room where a couple of people are like secretly dating, they've just been kissing, you walk in, you're like, what the heck is going on here? That's a frequency. It's an energetic signature. If you walk into somewhere where there's been like a horrific murder, there's a frequency to that. It's something you can feel, but you cannot see. Anyway, side note. So what we are talking about is embracing our radical, unhinged authenticity as being also part of this deprogramming back to basics approach. In a world that is set up to be so fundamentally not helpful for us, not supportive for us, the most rebellious act that you can do is to embrace your authenticity, to reclaim your wild, and to really accept your messy self as a form of self-care. You don't have to paint everything super white. You don't have to have a bunch of super green smoothies. All you need to do is recognize that you are worthy of taking care of and you are worthy of showing up to life in the most empowered way you can be, which means not hating yourself, not putting your self-care off, and not putting everything out there in this crazy as heck. I'm trying not to swear too much because I don't know the rules on YouTube. This crazy as heck world that really does prefer it if you can just sit around feeling sad, feeling scared, and like buying shit. Okay, so perceived barriers to self-care debunked. Now, I'm so glad that we had April and Maribel talking in the beginning of this about their perceived barriers to self-care, and they've already got it fucking going here. You guys already know what's up, so I love that. Now, if you are watching this, now feel free to pop in the chat what your barriers to self-care are. Now, I want to acknowledge that there is I want to acknowledge that there's a difference, and stay with me here. This is going to be a little controversial, but you know, we got this together. I'm going to put my hand out to you. Come here, people. Okay, so there is a difference between a very real barrier and an excuse. And we need to know and be radically fucking honest with ourselves, which is which. When it comes to any shadow work, inner work, deeper work, whatever, self-care work, trying to improve life, we have to be brutally fucking honest with ourselves and understand when we are the problem. It can be fun, I promise you. Oh, hey, Drea. Oh, I can curse as much as I want. Well, shit's about to go down, then I'll tell you that much. So again, if you are here watching this video, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Feel free to give it a thumbs up. Come on, comment here, people. Guys, I'm new to YouTube. Okay, so when we're talking about the barriers to self-care or perceived barriers to self-care, there can be some real, very real barriers out there. Now, the interesting thing about the self-care conversation and every conversation in general, and those of you that have been in my world for a while will know that I bang on and on and on about this, is that there's certain things that are very true. And then there's certain things that we believe are true because we tell themselves that they're true. And that's why we have to do shadow work. That's why we have to kind of deprogram our belief systems. Now, there are very real barriers to self care that are quite real. Now, I will say one of them is being a caregiver. And I don't see a lot of people talking about this in the self care conversation. But what if your partner, what if you have kids and your partner is having a mental health crisis? How much time are you going to have if you are trying to support them through that plus take on a bigger load of work in your house? Then there's like the sandwich generation, right? So you're taking care of small kids and maybe your parents or like elderly people in your family, you're also acting as a caregiver for them. There are very real barriers to self-care when it comes to the dimension of time and what we have to give, energetics, that sort of thing. So I just wanted to say and acknowledge that that's a very real barrier because I don't see people talking about that a lot. And I feel like it is so incredibly relevant to the self care conversation. Um, but then there's also more of the subconscious slash self sabotage elements and our belief system. Now, if you were to survey 50 people and you were to say, do you believe that self care is selfish? They would likely say no. But in practice, right, in terms of when it comes for yourself, oftentimes there's a little bit of that programming, a little bit of that subtle kind of bullshit that can seep in and poison the well. Okay, so there can be these subconscious belief systems at work that are behind. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't know what I do, like what to do about it. And I don't know what I like. So, we're going to talk about these four things a little bit more in depth. But essentially, what you believe on your subconscious level, and I talk a little bit more about subconscious stuff on my other channel. So, if you want to check that out, it's Healing for Hot Messes. Um, but I am a person who very much believes in the power of your subconscious belief system. So, if on a subconscious level you believe that you are not worthy of care, a lot of us have that, including myself. If you believe you are not worthy of care, if you believe that you don't deserve care, if you live your life with a subconscious belief system and worldview that everything out there deserves your attention more than you deserve it, or that you have the weight of the world on your shoulders, and that you can't get ahead of it, it's always going to be there, sticking the stick into the spokes of the wheels of your self care. I hope that I am making sense here. I'm going to stop for some water because I'm getting heated, y'all. Heated. So now, again, living in a capitalist world, what we see of self care, a lot of it is highly curated bullshit and nonsense. That's just what I'm saying. And so we see commercials that show self-care looks like this, and then we see magazine ads, self-care looks like that. Then we see the shit that people are putting online because they're incentivized to put it online because they're monetized or they're trying to sell something. Self-care looks like this and this. Now, full disclosure, I sell something. I have a feral self-care membership program that is a 3 month like we do 3 month cohorts because it's seasonal, but I try and keep the cost as low as humanly possible while still being able to pay my guest speakers. And we really dig into the psycho spiritual side of self-care. We really dig into embracing authenticity. So when it comes to the first kind of thing that comes up a lot is I do not have the time. Self-care can be done just like Maribel said. Self-care can be done in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, all of that. What the problem usually is the hurdle of getting it over it in your brain first. So when you're about to do something self-care, say you want to paint, say you want to doodle, say you want to do whatever, when you're at the beginning of the arc, it can feel like setting your shit up, like you don't have time for it. But once you do it, it goes real fast. So it's really getting over that first initial hurdle of fighting that thing within you that is saying like, you don't deserve to do it. You're not worthy of doing it. You don't have the time, blah, blah, blah. Really being reactionary and fighting with that. One of my biggest tips for this is setting a timer, setting an alarm. And for a lot of us, there's another subconscious belief system that goes with that, which is like our inner, the little goblin inside of us that likes to be a fucknut, that is essentially going to say like, well, you shouldn't have to you're a grown up. You shouldn't have to set a timer. I don't give a fuck what that guy says. You do what you need to do to get shit done because that's what radical self-responsibility is about. And if we were all more empowered to be radically self-responsible, we would get more shit done and the world would look like a better place. That's it. That's all I'm saying. So when it comes to not having the time, you don't actually need to have a ton of time. You don't need to have a 28-step morning routine. You don't need to like do this, that, or the other. What you need to do is set yourself up for success, right? So I'm not sure if you guys have read the book Atomic Habits. I actually love that book because I feel like it really justifies me to leave shit out because I'm like a chronic won't put shit away because probably the ADHD, but I like to have things out so that they're accessible, right? So that I can do them, so that they're nearby. Setting yourself up for success and understanding like what can I do in just 5 minutes? So if you go below in the description of this video, I actually have a freebie. You can download it. It's a Feral Self-Care Starter Pack. And one of the activities in that freebie is it's like a little ritual kind of exercise where you can set yourself up for success with a list of ideas of things that you can access and things you can do. Now, talking about my membership again for a moment. So the Feral Self-Care Collective, we do weekly live sessions from me and a variety of guest speakers. I get 6 guest speakers per session or per season. So for 12 weeks, every single week, we meet for 1 to 2 hours. It's usually 60 to 90 minutes. And we do stuff together, feral self-care stuff. Sometimes it's a guided meditation. Sometimes it's breath work. Sometimes like we do a lot of art stuff like collage. This is a power animal kind of active imagination. And we made these wildest untamed self kind of like oracle cards for ourselves. But in just 60 to 90 minutes per week in this membership, people are actually doing the thing. So okay, I don't have the time all the time during the day. What am I going to do? Blah, 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 blah. What I love about this membership and exactly why I created it, because I needed it just as much as everybody else, is that, look, here's your date. You can come here and do this thing, and it takes the guesswork out of it. And in just 60 to 90 minutes, you can feel better and move the needle. There have literally been days where I'm like slogging through and I'm like, I just can't fucking take it anymore. I'm a time bomb. I'm telling you, I'm a time bomb. But I know if I'm facilitating a session or if I have a guest host facilitating a session, I can go, okay, at least on Tuesday and Wednesday, I know that I'm going to be doing the thing. And then after I do it, it always feels better. It never fails. So have you guys had that experience where you talk yourself out of something and then once you start doing it, it actually takes way less time than you imagine? I am a huge fan and have talked about it before on this channel of 6 deep intentional breaths and the amazing transformative power of that for your energy, for your move, and for your physicality. Okay, that doesn't take anything. It doesn't take no money. It doesn't take no time. You can do it when you're in the middle of a mentee bee sitting on the floor shaking. 6 deep intentional breaths. The way that it can change everything actually brings up a lot of shadows because then you're like, okay, but why didn't I do this sooner? But we don't stick in the guilt. We just keep it moving. We just keep it moving. Okay, so I don't have the time. Now I'm going to look in the chat here. Again, if you are here watching this, feel free to pop your thoughts in the chat. I'm so curious about what you guys have to think. We're a community here. We're all in this together. That is the most amazing thing about it. So I have problems getting haircuts. No lie. It's really difficult for both me and my husband. Something about having that focus on us, wounds for sure. 1,000%. 1,000%. And it's crazy because that specific activity, that is not the first time I've heard that before. Definitely not the first time I've heard that just specifically with haircuts. I actually don't cut my hair because I can't take it either. And so that is something that makes a ton of sense, right? These are the things. It's like the thing about our subconscious belief systems and our wounds and things like that is because they are subconscious, they don't have to make logical sense. And we try to rationalize things and we try and say like, but does that make sense? Like, but it shouldn't be like that. And it doesn't matter what should, whatever, the hunk of meatloaf in our skull does not give a fuck. It's going to do what it does regardless. And so we need to take our consciousness and our intentionality and we need to work ahead of it. And guess what? We don't get it right all the time, right? We don't solve all of the things. Sometimes we just go, that's the way I am, and we accept it. And that also gets to be okay. That's another thing I don't see people talking about a lot. Some of this shit is not worth your energy. Now, when it comes to I don't have the money. That is so much capitalist programming. It is insane. Some of the most powerful acts of self-care do not cost any money whatsoever. We have been sold spa days. We have been sold bubble baths. Although I will, just full disclaimer, you guys know I'm a bath magic hoe, so it's like I'm all about the baths. So I try not to talk too much shit about like the bubble bath self-care, because I'm like, oh my God, I love it so much. And that's like where a lot of my spiritual practice is. But there's this idea that we need to have money, right? Like, oh, well, and this is kind of where the whole self-care industry really does feed into that idea. When you're looking up self-care and everybody looks like they're a size 0 and they're doing smoothies and they're doing this and they're doing that. No, self-care can be free. Self-care can be putting your feet in the dirt. Self-care can be screaming into a pillow. Self-care can be doodling when you're feeling like you just have so much anxiety, free floating anxiety in your body. Self-care can be tapping. Self-care can be literally taking an ugly day. Self-care can be waking up in the morning and going, you know what? I fucking cannot today. Sticking on your most disgusting pair of pajamas or whatever and like hiding in a blanket. We get to do that. There is a saying I use a lot. It's one of my favorites. So if you use it, feel free to tag me. Throw yourself a pity party, but give yourself a curfew. At a certain point, we all got to be like, bitch, get the fuck back up again. Just get up. We got to get up. But we also have to hold space for those negative times, for those times we have low energy, so that it doesn't leak out in these other ways. Now, another element of self-care that does come up is, and let me know if this is relatable for you guys, I don't know what to do. That's one. So there's two elements to this. So these are the last two. I don't know what to do and I don't know what I like. This is such a huge pervasive problem because part of the self-care self-care conversation is being able to have self-understanding, and the same systems that prop up this idea that self-care is selfish, like that same kind of weird, subtle societal programming that comes up, really does give us this thing where sometimes we don't know who we are because we haven't had time to figure it out. This is why I'm such a big fan of radical authenticity and also self-discovery, right? Because I think that if we don't know who we are, and we don't know there's a quote about this, like if you don't know your own story, you become a part of someone else's. One of my favorite thinkers is Terrence McKenna, and he has like a ton of banger quotes on this exact topic. But you need to know yourself in order to lead yourself, right? So it's the sort of thing where, you know, if you don't know what to do and you don't know what you like, you need to empower yourself or give yourself permission or get permission, however you need it, to go play around and figure it out, because you are worth it undoubtedly. I don't know if anybody here needs to hear this, but I will tell you this: you are worthy. The fact that you exist is a fucking miracle. You are here for a reason. You have a ton of worth. You have so much to give the world, and do not let this shitty system that we live in convince you of anything otherwise. Do you know how many stars had to explode for you to be here? How many years of human, animal, life evolution that had to happen to make this planet, to make the organisms on this planet become us for you to be here right now? How your parents had to come into fruition, everybody across your family line, how they met, how you became here. You are a miracle beyond your wildest comprehension. So maybe you are fundamentally worthy just because you are. And I truly believe that to be so. So when it comes to, I don't know what to do or I don't know what I like when it comes to self-care, a lot of times this is a state of functional freeze. So are you guys familiar with functional freeze? If we're talking about like nervous system stuff, we're talking about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. We can find ourselves in a state of functional freeze, which sometimes can look like analysis paralysis, where it's like, well, okay, I've got half an hour and I can do whatever I want. And then it's just like, I guess I'm gonna just watch strangers argue or watch the world burn in real time, because we just don't have the spoons. We just don't have the energy. The only way to get out of a pit of habit like this, which, guys, I experience it as well. So I just want you guys to know that this is totally normal. Again, we live in a system that has hijacked our evolutionary impulses, and we end up in a place where we feel wholly unsupported. To get out of functional freeze, we can, number one, preload ourselves with a set of ideas. So if you're like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what I like, feel free to do that free download below, because there's a 5 minutes of joy jar in there that is going to be very helpful for you. I swear to God, if you do it, it takes like 10 minutes. Like the video I did for it, I think is like 8 minutes or something. Just do that, set yourself up for success, and then commit to yourself and follow through. If you feel that functional freeze, one of my favorite things to do is state it aloud. I'm frozen. I'm stuck in a scroll hole. Try to state it aloud, because your brain is processing it on many different levels. Set yourself up for success. I don't know what to do. I don't know what I like. Get yourself out of that functional freeze, and it takes incremental steps. So just like anything, so for example, when I do creative coaching with people for being more authentic when they're showing up. And often with that, there's this element that I talk about a lot, which is that you have to put in the reps and you don't have to get it right 100% of the time. So we have this idea like, I'm really focusing on my wellness. I'm really focusing on showing up authentically. Really focusing on like getting past my procrastination or whatever the heck it is. Um, but then it's like, if we fail at that some of the time, we're like, oh, I'm fucking up. No, if you do it 100 times and you win and you catch yourself and you win once, you have still moved that needle. So we really have to, again, deprogram our ideas of perfection, particularly when it comes to our self-care. We have to. Now, just popping in the chat here. Let me know if you have any thoughts, guys. Popping in the chat here. Sometimes we have to be told to take care of ourselves. Yes. And like this is another element of self-care as well. There's something so beautiful about having people in your life that genuinely care about you. And unfortunately, the same subconscious mechanisms that can cause us to not take care of ourselves will also cause us to let people in our lives to think they have authority over us, or to put up with some bullshit where people are not supportive of us because we think we need them or we think this and that. There is something so beautiful about having somebody else in your corner telling you that it is okay to take care of yourself, because they actually genuinely care about you. That is such an underrated self-care thing, and it's a privilege not everyone has. But until we start viewing ourselves as worthy, if you're a person that's watching this that's like, I don't have people like that in my life, you absolutely can, and you absolutely deserve it. Every single little bit of it, just so you're aware. So yeah, that's kind of like what I wanted to talk to you about self-care here. Let me know if you guys have any questions, any thoughts, any comments, you guys. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be here on my first live on the Feral Self-Care channel. Guys, if you are watching this, please like this video, please subscribe. But if you have any comments or anything like that, feel free to let me know. If you look in the description below, there is the freebie that you can download. So it's got like 3 small kind of feral self-care practices that you can do, and a guided meditation to connect with and unleash your inner wild. And there's also links. So the next season of the Feral Self-Care Collective starts on July 7th. We have a wait list up right now, and I'm going to be announcing the guest speaker soon, but I'm going to tell you guys this next season that is coming up is so interesting. We've got stuff coming up about Akashic Records, divination. We have more therapeutic art practices, etc. Like, you guys, it's going to be so much fun. This program is really just like making my life, and I'm just loving everybody who's in it. And I just love spreading the message that self-care you don't have to like take your life and flip it in a tornado in order to make it happen, right? You can actually do it in just a little bit of intentional time per week. And yeah, this next season, I mean, I love all the seasons because I always get really fucking banger guest speakers. And then my sessions are always really fun, very creative. I do a lot of like therapeutic art stuff, but like working with the subconscious, working with shadow work, working with archetypes and active imagination. But we've got some like really great guest speakers. And I can't wait to tell you guys all about it. I'll be doing a live soon. So looking at the chat here, April is saying, what is the book you mentioned earlier? Atomic Habits is the name of the book. It's by James Clear, I believe. And it's just about like forming habits. But I mean, it's a long book, and essentially, like, the gist of it, a lot of it is about setting yourself up for success, right? Like, if you have to say you want to go jogging or something, and you have to set up all these things, it's like, no, put your shit out the night before so that it's easy. We will always take the path of least resistance, which is why I think that it's really important to set yourself up for success. So this is maybe taking time, understanding that if you get in a state of functional freeze and you're like, I don't know what I like to do, and then also, well, I've got this free time. What should I do? Setting yourself up for success can be taking the time to figure out what you like beforehand as a pre step, as a first step. Maybe writing out a list of things that you want to do, that you like to do, so that it's totally made easy for you. We have to make things easy for ourselves. We live in a world where everything is vying for our attention, which, by the way, I really appreciate you guys being here because it always boggles my mind that anybody spends any of theirs on me. But I love that we have this like beautiful community together here and on my other channel. But essentially, we have to set ourselves up for success. And part of that is recognizing just how worthy we are. And if you need a reminder, I'm telling you, I love the shit out of you. And I think that you're totally worthy. I spent so much of my life. I was addicted to drugs for a while. I was definitely addicted to self harm and self destruction for even longer. And I will tell you that at the time, it was because I felt deeply, deeply unworthy. And I didn't have to feel that way. I didn't have to participate in the struggles that I had. I didn't have to buy into these ideas that other people had told me about myself or that the world had kind of created for me, right? You are worthy just because you are. So if you ever feel alone or unloved, just know that there's a weird Canadian bish out here that loves the shit out of you, regardless. Okay, so if that's it, I'm going to pop off now, but make sure to check out my freebie. Make sure to follow this channel, like this video, please, you guys, and check out my other channel too, Healing for Hot Messes, if you are not following that already. But thank you for being here, and take care of yourselves, you guys. Take care of your messy, wild, untamed selves.